Okay, folks, let's get going. So, firstly, can everybody hear me and can everybody see the cash flow screen? Hopefully, that's lots of yeses. I can't hear you, by the way, you're all muted. So, yeah, it needs to be comments in the chat, please. Thank you very much. Okay, so welcome to our first ever Cypher webinar. We are learning as quickly as you guys are about all of this kind of stuff. So if anything goes a little bit awry, you'll have to bear with us, but hopefully we've got the technology we need and you can all see the important bit, which is this Excel spreadsheet. So what are we trying to achieve today? Basically, in this new world we're living in, this post-virus lockdown world, cash flow has gone from being the be-all and end-all to businesses to something even more important than that. We are talking to businesses literally all day, every day about basically managing cash flow in a way which means that your suppliers are getting paid, but you're holding as much cash as you can just in case this lockdown period we're in doesn't end next Monday, but goes on for another 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, and making sure that you've got an obvious path through these times that we're in, to make sure that basically, A, you have enough cash left to be there when the world reopens and demand kicks off and everybody's ready to spend money again, to make sure you're still in that game by the time we get to that point. And this is doubly important if you're one of those businesses that needs some kind of support from a bank. So if once we've done this for your business, you realise that there's a hole in the cash flow and you need some support from a bank, this schedule on hand is going to be really important to go with your application for any bank finance, and it will give the bank manager peace of mind that you understand the cash flow in the business. They know exactly why they're lending to you, and it should make that process easier. I know the banks are under a lot of pressure at the moment to hand out these CBIL government-backed loans, but they do still need to jump through the same underwriting hoops that they would have done 6 months ago. So it is important that you're giving them all the info they need, and we tell them the story. The bank managers obviously understand everyone's closed the doors for a few weeks and therefore the cash is drying up, but actually being able to tell them the story via numbers in a spreadsheet is really key, because you're probably speaking to a bank manager who may know you, understands your business. It goes off to central underwriters who don't know you from Adam and have got 300 loan applications to do that day. It's kind of making it as easy as possible for them to not say no, and so that's why these spreadsheets are really important. So hopefully you've all received a copy of this cash flow from Emily. If you haven't, then don't worry, we can send you one out post meeting. But this is our kind of standard cash flow template that if we've done this for any of your businesses, if we're helping you with your cash flow, you would have seen this in a slightly different format, but this is the basis that we use for all of our rolling cash flow forecasts. And it's really straightforward. It starts with this number. Well, I find my mouse pointer up here. So this number here needs to be, this is day one. So our cash flow is based on Mondays, right? Every date across the top is a Monday, so it's the start of a new week. So this needs to be your cash position as it was 1 minute past midnight on Monday night, or Monday morning as it is. So we're going to put a number in here. I'm running off of the demo data from Zero. So the cash flow figure we've got is 4599, but that will obviously be your cash flow figure, and you'll see now that's forecast that across, and it's a really straightforward, really straightforward template here. So this top half down to the green line is cash that's coming in, and we'll show you how to populate that in a minute. That will total up the figures there. So if we just put a random 10,000 in here, you'll see cash in's gone up by 10,000. Bottom half is all the money out. Bearing in mind this is being for this whole week, so from Monday the 6th to Sunday the 12th, any cash we're expecting to go out, that would then put a figure in here for total cash out, and it adds one from the other and gives you what your closing cash position is going to be at the end of the week, which then rolls forward to the following Monday's starting position. So that's the basis, right? That's the nice, straightforward kind of formula that drives this entire spreadsheet. Now, if you have more than one bank account, if you've got a reserve account or a VAT kind of holding account that you're scribbling your VAT away into, then obviously we need to factor those in as well. And there's a slightly amended version of this template which we can give you, which has the sort of formulas in there to build the holding accounts. But this also works perfectly well if you just add up the value of all of your bank accounts. So if you don't want to use the more complicated one, this simple one will work if you add current account plus reserve account and then put that figure in there. So, and there are three kind of main drivers of the cash flow that's going to come in and out over here over the next 12 weeks. You can see we've built this one so that it ends at the end of September, so that we're basically forecasting the next kind of 5 months worth here. You can obviously roll this then forward week on week if you want. It's a good habit for business owners to be in. The main benefit of this, once we're out of this virus, I think you'll find the main benefit of this, if you're running this, is it gives you kind of peace of mind and certainty. So if you're about to pay a big bill, you can do that comfortably, knowing that actually in 7 weeks' time, you're going to have funds in from here, there and everywhere, and that's going to cover this big cost that you're spending now. Because that uncertainty is what kind of keeps business owners up at night, right? You've got money in the bank, but you're not sure how much of it is really yours and how much really belongs to the VAT man and how much you've got to pay out on your rent this week. So having this cash flow forecast schedule and having it up to date will give you that peace of mind, and therefore, in theory, a better night's sleep. Now, obviously, you replace this bit of stress, and as a business owner, you'll know some other stress will come along, right? But we can at least take the financial stress out of your business. So we're going to start off with the figures that we absolutely 100% know. So in any kind of cash flow forecast, the one figure that we know is coming out every month is whatever's on a direct debit. So what I've done, you're going to have to obviously go into your online banking to do this yourselves. You don't need to do that now, but the process is if you log into your online banking, pretty much every bank worth its salt within its online bankings, within the payments section, there will be a direct debits list. So it will give you a list of all of the direct debits that have gone out of your bank account. You can download that into a CSV file, so an Excel file, and it will spit it out something like this. So this is the one I've taken, I've sort of cobbled together from a list of direct debits I had sitting around. I've sorted it by date because typically the bank will give you a list of every direct debit you've ever had set up, which may include some which are now defunct, suppliers you're not using, ones that are only collected once a year for insurance or whatever. So you'll see these top two here are cancelled direct debits, so we're going to ignore those. In fact, I'm going to just delete them out because they're just going to take up a bit of space. So these are our regular monthly direct debits. So we've got Direct Line for insurance, Nest, so that's auto enrollment pension, a software company, CJ Bookkeeping, who does this company's bookkeeping, Stripe, Simplicity Communications, so those guys do the telecoms for this business, more software, Vitality Health Insurance, time to pay arrangement from HMRC. Some of you will have those in place. RT Search doing pay-per-click, me, some networking, that's rent by the looks of it, property management, etc., and a bank loan. So these are what we know are coming out, and this is the important one. This is the date of the month that they go out. So what we're going to do, how many have we got there? We've got a total of 16 direct debits. So if we go back to our main cash flow template, what have I got? I've left us 5 lines to put that in. So I'm going to just add in 11 lines. There we go. As long as you're adding stuff above the kind of orangey line and the green line, the formulas will catch anything. Let's delete those and let's just copy and paste in all of these. Oh, here we go. Right. So this is all of our monthly direct debits going in, and what I'm going to do is just catch the dates as well, because this will then tell us which week we're going to put these into the cash flow. Okay. So here we are on the 6th. And I tell you what we also need to do is the amounts, don't we? So direct line is going to come out on the 2nd. So then this is nice and straightforward. We find the week that the 2nd comes in. So it's this week here, right? That's the week that catches the 2nd of April, which is when the next payment's going to be. And let's just plot in the amount that comes out for direct line. So £45. We're not worried about pence on this. So it's, you know, you can if you're really, really anal about these sort of things, but I wouldn't invite, you know, it's not going to make a difference to your life. So just round up or round down. Right, Nest comes out on the 9th. Oh, that's 426. So that one's going to go in there. And then what we're going to do is plot this across. So that's going to be on the 2nd every month. So we'll find the week that the 2nd falls in and plot this figure in. This is really eerie. I don't know if all of you are actually asleep or still awake or not, because I can't hear a thing. So give me some thumbs up or something in the chat if you're still awake. I did say this was going to be a really simple run through, so I think it doesn't get much more exciting than this, folks. Right, here we go. So can you see what we're doing? We're building up a picture of what direct debits we've got going out and when they're going out. So we've got 2 now on the 10th. Oh. Right. I may not put all of these in because as riveting as this is, you are going to get bored. Let's just do a few more. So stripes on the 15th. Right. Nick, I gave you a plug. You can't be sleeping. Not happy about that, Mr. Adams. Right. What else have we got? Let's put in Simplicity's direct debit. I'm sure it's really good value for money. £98 for all your telecoms. Can't go wrong, can you, Nick? There we go. Now, if I'd done some Blue Peter style work here, I could have had a, here's one I prepared earlier and just flipped to one with all the direct debits in, couldn't I? But I haven't done that. I've been busy helping someone write a business plan this morning, because what's really good is that some businesses are seeing A, some light at the end of the tunnel, and B, finding ways that they can diversify and set up new businesses whilst all this is going on, which is good to see, right? Let's go regardless and vitality. Let's put those in. Ooh. Right. You know what? What am I doing? Right, 182. There you go, these two. Lost in my own spreadsheet there. 24th, so there. Right, so you can see the figure along the bottom is now changing to the point where if nothing else happens, we're going to run out of cash end of August with our £4.5 that we've got, and we haven't got halfway through all of these yet. So RT search on the 25th. Got to remember to pay the accountant. That's the important one. All of these are going out at the same time, so that's good. Right, we'll finish with the rent one. We don't worry about those last two. Right, so hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Let's delete these three because that was kind of enough in effect. These are in the wrong row. That's bad bookkeeping. There we go. Let's put a figure in there. Right, there we go. So we've now built up a picture week to week of where our direct debits are hitting. And you can see they kind of come in three main blocks. There's 3 weeks of every month where we have the kind of early ones that hit around the 9th and the 10th, the mid-month ones that hit around the 23rd, and then we've got a big gaggle of them at the end of the month, which includes our loan, our HMRC payment, all sorts. So that's direct debits done and dusted. That's the nice straightforward bit. That's the bit that we know. That's the bit that we've got 100% certainty on. Now, obviously, you can work with suppliers that are on direct debits if you've got software subscriptions and stuff. Lots of software businesses are letting people tailor plans, knock off add-ons and bits and pieces that you're not using. They're certainly giving away extras for free, so it's worth having those conversations. But this really is the set in stone numbers that we're not going to have much joy playing with. So next up, we're going to start looking at some money coming in. So you'll see at the top here, I've got 4 customers, customer A, B, C, and D. I'm going to delete those now. What we're going to do, hopefully most of you are using Xero or some form of cloud bookkeeping to run your books. And assuming that is the case, you will be able to go in there and produce one of these. This is an aged receivables summary. So this is basically what Xero thinks is owed to it by, or owed to this business by its customers as of today. Now, obviously, before you do this, you need to make sure your bookkeeping is bang up to date. So if you sell, and this bit applies to businesses that sell on credit, and then we'll come back to if you don't sell on credit in your cash-based business. Assuming you invoice your customers and they pay you either 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 90 days later, you'll have one of these reports sat within your bookkeeping system. And this is the key one we need for now. But before you use any data from this, you need to make sure that you've reconciled your bank. So if you're on Xero and you've logged in, and the first thing it says is you've got 250 unreconciled transaction lines, then you need to spend some time getting that up to date before you do this, because otherwise you're going to be putting rubbish data in and therefore you'll get rubbish data out, right? But I know this one is 100% up to date because this business, as we know, is using CJ Bookkeeping for its bookkeeping and it's using us for its accounts. And businesses that do that are generally bang up to date. So we've got 6 companies that owe us some money. So I'm going to copy those out from there. You may have a longer list, you may have a smaller list. Like I said, if you're a business that operates a till or is on a cash-based business or on direct debits, then there's a slightly different version of this that you want to use, which we can send you as well. But the principle is the same. We are going to plot in when we're expecting to receive money. So I'm just going to give myself enough space up here. And then let's go to our debtors tab. Let's copy these in. So all of these people owe us money. In theory, at some point, assuming we chase effectively and that we've actually done the work that we've billed, these guys are going to pay us. So the next case is to look at our debtor schedule, work out which of these businesses we've spoken with, and when do we expect to receive the money. So let's take Basket Case Limited. They owe us £914, but it's current. So assuming we are on 30-day terms, and that's the easiest way to run this, I think, because Xero's set up as a, set up 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. If it's current, that means it's been invoiced in April. So in theory, assuming Basket Case pay us on terms, we should expect that money week 1 of May, right? We've invoiced it sometime between the 1st and the 7th of April. That's why it's in this current tab. So we're going to put that in this week here. 914. £15. It's coming in there. So you see, it's affected this figure here. You'll see this opening balance, which is the previous week's closing balance, is going to start going up and down really quickly now as we start plotting transactions in. So Bayside Limousine, that's another current one, or Bayside Club, sorry, another one. Let's put that in. Now you will know from your customers which ones pay you bang on the money every time and which ones drag their heels. Or you may know that customer X is a oh, well, this is a good example. City Limousines, I suspect, were not great payers anyway, look. So they've got £250 owed from more than 2 months ago, £270 that's over a month overdue. And I suspect in the modern times, limousine businesses are not going to be open for business and trading. So the prudent person amongst us here would be having a conversation with City Limousines, finding out where they are. But I wouldn't be expecting much of this £1,170 that they owe us in the next month, right? They're already 2 months overdue. They're now certainly not operating in this sort of post-virus world. So let's assume if we had that conversation and they say, you know what, we can give you £500 by the end of May, but then the balance is not going to be until July when we start trading. Let's plot that in. So it's 1170. It's going to be 670, let's say, there. Now, you'll obviously have your own conversations with your customers. You'll know who pays you. Like I said, you can start to build this picture out. Now, who else have we got? DIISR. So that's a month overdue. So let's assume that's going to come in. That was a bit tardy, but they normally pay, 37 days. It's not a bad pay, really. I've certainly seen worse. Let's put them in there. Then we've got Marine Systems, 396. That's current. So this is an odd one. They've got a month overdue, and then we're going to have another one in a month. So let's assume we get that one there, and the balance here. So obviously this, because it's all fake data, is a little bit arbitrary. But obviously, as you're building this for your customers, you'll be able to build up a better picture. You'll have the conversations, you'll chase the debt. You have to, it's tricky chasing debt in these sort of climates. You've got to be, you've got to have lots of empathy because they're in the same position you are, but you also need to protect your position before you can, do yourself a favor before you do them a favor is the kind of key. Let's just put Ridgeway in as well, 6.87. So chasing debt is possible, but it is tricky. I've forgotten that number now. I can't multitask. Right, 6187. So there you go. So this is all the cash as our best estimate as when we're expecting it to come in. And you can see it's spread quite significantly across a number of weeks. And obviously what would happen as you move through this cash flow forecast, so when we get to next Monday, you're then expecting this 271 in. What we do when we're building these cash flows for clients is we will check the bank feedback and we kind of mark them off as we go. And then, actually, if that 271 doesn't come in, then we push it back a week. Nice and straightforward. The numbers will keep working, but you'll keep rolling it back. But it means also that it doesn't get forgotten, because lots and lots of business owners are great at chasing debt, but they get the, oh yeah, Stefan, that's coming in, we'll pay that next week. And then you assume that's job done and then forget about it. And until the money's in your bank account, it's not job done. You still need to chase it. And kind of having it in this rolling list like this means if it doesn't get paid, it just gets pushed back. It stays in your mind's eye, which is kind of key, because some of these debts are just going to need to be chased and chased and chased and chased until they get paid. And that's the reality of, it's the reality of the world anyway, but in these times we're in now, it's even more important. So that's our 11,417 of sales plotted in. Now, obviously, if you're a business that's still operational and raising sales now, then you'll need to, as you produce sales invoices, plot them in here. So if you invoice someone on the 27th and you're on 30-day terms, maybe not City Limousines, but one of these others that pay you on 30 days, you would just plot the amount in 30 days from the date you invoice it. And that's the kind of default holding position for it until you have a conversation with your customer and find out if it's going to be delayed at all. And all of these numbers in a cash flow, it's probably important to point out now, every number you see here is gross, which means basically it's including VAT. So any numbers you see on a profit and loss account from zero is going to be net of VAT. But when we're talking about cash, we're talking about the absolute figure that hits your bank account, which obviously includes VAT if you're a VAT registered business. Okay, so that's the top half of our cash flow done for now. We're going to move back down because we've got exactly the same process to do. Again, from zero, I've gone in and I've pulled out the list of everyone that we owe money to. So this is our creditors list. All the same caveats apply to this as did to the income. In terms of if your bank is not reconciled, this is going to be gobbledygook. But this will give us an idea of who we owe money to, how old some of that debt is, and let's us plot it in. So how many have we got here? We've got 12 to put in. So let's make sure we've got enough lines here. Perfect. Tidy up the formatting. There we go. Right. So if we look at this, what's the story telling me here? We've got these two that definitely need to be paid. So let's put those two in first. Central Copiers and Smart Agency. And this is obviously the numbers you can affect the most, right? So because you've got this visibility of your cash flow now, you can start to see if we plot all of these payments in. So if we wanted to try and clear one of our suppliers and get that happy feeling, we don't have enough cash flow left at the end of the month to do that. But we know at this point, so by the end of April, once Ridgeway have paid that big bill, we can see down here that we're going to have enough cash available to start clearing the bulk of these guys. So this is where we get to do some sort of a little bit of management. So we've got Bayside Club. These are the three that we need to start paying at the end of this month, really, because they're already a month overdue. So Bayside and Smart Agency, let's plot those in. Again. And happily, we've got enough cash available for this at the moment, so this is good. Put those two in. Quite how they're paying £56 for Zero in Zero's own data, I'm not quite sure. Or how they've got 0-1 credit terms, because obviously they charge by the direct debit. But hey ho, right. Ooh. So that's all of the ones that we have to pay this month, and then we've got these last few, which we're going to try and pay at the end of the following month. What have we got? ABC Furniture, that was the first one, wasn't it? Was it £1,200? Let's get these last few in. So you may have a much more condensed creditor list than this. So you know, more money but owed to fewer people. Or you might have it spread out a bit more like these guys. The process is the same. Your ability to negotiate is obviously better if you have lots of smaller suppliers, because if you can put some of those off, it's easy. You're not trying to deal with one big balance where obviously if you owe someone 10 grand, you're probably higher up their list of people they're chasing than if you owe them £125. So that's our cash flow plotted. This week here at the end of May is looking an expensive week. You can see that we've got 4.5 grand going out. But at present, having put these numbers in, we can see that we've got cash in our bank until pretty much the end of June. Look, 29th of June is the end of that week. So about the 5th of July that we run out of cash on this forecast. So that's good news. And that's where I get into, if this was all the costs you had, actually, if you were sitting worried about cash here because you only had 2,400 and you were concerned, by plotting this, you can see how you can get a bit of peace of mind. Now, the big figure that we're not including yet, and this is where we're going to come back, is your payroll. So this, most of you, I suspect, are paying staff. And this is often small businesses' biggest expense. And if you can see, if this business has, I don't know, couple of people on the payroll plus the directors, you could easily have £4,500 payroll bill. If we plot that in, suddenly we run out of cash at the end of May. So let's just plot this in for now. We're going to come back and show you how we fix this problem in a second, but let's just put, assuming we're not making anyone redundant, because we want the same people in our business at the end of this as we had at the start, with all of our payroll bills plotted in there, you can see we're starting to run out of cash really quickly. What does it top out at? 40,000. Now, in our cash flow forecast, we also have a column for PAYE and national insurance. So based on that, it's probably going to be about £800 or £900, and that's due on the 19th. Again, whoever does your payroll for you will give you these numbers. And they'll be able to help you plot them in. There we go. And obviously there's a VAT column as well. Now, we're not going to worry about that for the time being because that's been deferred. And if you're a business that's in the position of this one, you're obviously not going to be voluntarily paying any VAT. So you can see with our payroll costs included in there, we have a big cash hole quite quickly. Now, some businesses will be operating with an overdraft already. So actually, if we had a 10 grand overdraft, we've still got cash until middle of June. But if there's no bank support here, then we need to come up with a way of fixing this hole quickly. So that would be, can we push any of these supplier payments back? Possibly, but some of them we've held off for long enough already. So it'd be a case of negotiating with our suppliers. Again, the more you talk to people and explain the situation, the more understanding you'll get and the better chance you have of resolution that keeps the supplier, keeps that goodwill with the supplier at the end of this, because you're going to need to lean on these guys as they're leaning on their suppliers, right? It's kind of a chain. The other thing that we're going to put in here is assuming, so that at this point, you're going to be, if you've put all your debtors in and all your creditors in and all your direct debit in, then it's going to go one of two ways. Either you're a business that's still trading, in which case we start plotting in what's in your pipeline now, what invoicing you're expecting to do and when you're expecting that to hit. We would generally, until you've done the invoice and they go into this top bit here where they're a named debtor, if we know that we've got a pipeline of, I don't know, £4,000 worth of work that we're going to bill by the end of April that we would then expect to come in by the end of May, then we would start plotting it into here. And obviously this number, if I put the right number in, that would help. This number, depending on the industry you're in, may be fairly straightforward, and you always do £4 grand a month because of this contract or that contract or this repeat customer. Or you may be a business that doesn't know from month to month what business it's going to have, other than historically it's always had business, and then these numbers may be a bit looser. But the point is, you put in these holding numbers of what you're expecting, assuming you're still open for business, and then as you bill them, you slot them in up here and start putting the actuals in. So this is the kind of tenuous number in your cash flow at this point. So that's what would happen if you are still open for business. You would now go through and plot in numbers in this other banking section. And if you're closed for business, then obviously there are no ongoing sales, but what you probably have is access to the government furlough scheme. So let's plot that. And let's assume this business is closed its doors, but it needs to go to the bank and work out what its cash flow, kind of the worst cash flow position it's going to get, so that we can then understand how much bank funding we want. And this is nice and straightforward because the furlough scheme is going to give us 80% of that figure. we can put in, and it's generally coming in. We still don't know exactly when the grants are going to be received, but it's looking likely that it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks after the payroll's paid. So let's plot this in. So we know there's definitely 3 months, and then in theory, this business is going to, at some point around here, hopefully have its doors open and is going to be starting to trade again. So we're going to put some sales figures in here. Oh, that's the wrong month. So if we started at the start of June, no, sorry, start of July. Where am I? Right, so we're starting here, say, we're likely to not receive any money until about here. So that's, and if we were doing £4 a month, it may well be that we start off a little bit slower. So this is just placeholder numbers for what we're expecting to turn over and then receiving cash in the 30 days following us starting kind of opening for business and getting going. So now you may be one of these lucky businesses that is occupying premises and getting a grant. So let's assume this business is, and it's just applied, so it's likely to get its £10,000 next month. So there we go. That's pretty much the picture as we know it for this business, other than it's going to have some VAT to pay. So we know that the first quarter, so let's assume it's March quarter end, so it would normally pay its VAT here. On the 7th of May. So its next VAT bill, assuming the next ones are not deferred, is going to be somewhere around here. And again, at this point, it's probably too early to know what our June VAT bill is, but we're only going to have had a month or two of trading. So let's put, I don't know, 1,500 quid in there just as a placeholder. And again, you'll have some numbers in here which are absolute cast iron. And as you get further away from the present, you have to start putting placeholders in until those figures crystallize. So looking at this, our maximum requirement for cash comes fairly soon. Look, middle of May, £13,000 overdrawn there. Middle of June, it's a similar amount. And then it starts to ease. And that's because at that point, we've had 8 weeks of no, you know, in the period where we've been completely closed. Look, this period here, there's no payments out to suppliers. Now, you may have in your supplier lists, there may be some that are regular payments that you can't cancel, so haven't stopped just because you've closed the doors. But most of those normally are going to get covered, like your telecoms and your bank fees and stuff, are going to get covered on the direct debit. So they should be plotted in. But you may have a couple of extra costs going in out here. But in reality, you can see here, we've got a maximum need. If this was a client of ours, we would be advising them now to go and speak to their bank about a £15,000 or £20,000 overdraft, which should comfortably see them through to the point where they start trading again and we start seeing some of this income come back. And kind of the shoots of recovery are there. So does that make sense? Is everyone still with me at this point? Is everybody awake? And does anybody have any questions on what I've just gone through? I'm going to have a little bit of awkward silence here while some of you type, hopefully. Good. If I can get non-accounts people to understand this and make it easy to follow, that must mean it's easy to follow, right? Okay. So this is good news, right? No one's lost. I can, Nick. There we go. Right. Okay, so Nick's asked, can I summarize the order in which I did them? That's nice and easy. So the way I did it, you can obviously build this however your mind works. The reason I picked the order I did was I went from the fixed numbers, the ones that we know we can't change, to the ones then that we have kind of most effect on. So we started with direct debits because these are taken automatically out of your bank account in the on the day that they're set to go out, following the invoice that's created by your customer. So your supplier is driving that payment. So if they're billing you on the 30th, they'll be setting their direct debit to come out either on the 31st or the 7th, or however many days their terms are. But the point is, they drive that process. You don't have any control, and you can't ring British Telecom and say, can you push my direct debit back 7 days because I've just paid this supplier and I haven't got enough cash. It doesn't work like that. So we put in direct debits first because they're the fixed numbers and they appear kind of every week going forwards for the foreseeable. Then we looked at income. So we looked at our debtors, because again, we have a degree of impact in terms of understanding when, a degree of impact and influence on when these things get paid. So we would put these in as a whole and then use our best guess, use this as a prompt to speak to our customers, and then following those conversations, plot that cash in up here. And then we go on to the suppliers, so the creditors, aged payables in zeros terms, because they're the ones we have the most control on, because we're physically making these payments to them. If we don't have the cash or the inclination to pay them, they don't get paid. Now, there's obviously a bigger picture there about being put on stop and having relationships ruined with suppliers, but these are the ones you have the most kind of influence on the date of the payments. So you can almost slot them in if you're particularly cash strapped and working around, a overdraft ceiling that you're right up against. Then typically you plot these in to use kind of every last pound down the bottom to make sure that you're kind of maximizing the cash in your business and kind of keeping the wheels turning. So in times where you can trade, you just don't have the cash flow to do what you need. That would be when you start maneuvering these, understanding actually that £1,200, if we can just push it to there, may make a big difference on the kind of bottom line for the end of the month, for example. So that's what we did in that order. Then we plotted in payroll, PAYE, VAT, and we've also got a line in here for corporation tax. Now, all three of these are easy cash flow wins at the moment. VAT, you're not paying this quarter. PAYE, if you ring HMRC, they will give you a time to pay, and also corporation tax as well at the moment. Especially if your business is obviously closed because of the virus, then you'll get time to pay agreements on all of these. You can then plot those time to pays in, and you'll hopefully freeing up some cash flow. So Claire suggested that putting tentative figures in red. That's a really good thing to do, Claire. I kind of feel like a lot of you, if you can't do this, should have a call with Claire, because she'll be able to do it for you. That's one of the services that she does. There you go. So our tentative figures, look, we have put in red. That's a really good suggestion. Other colours are available. And yes, Chris, when you you do the other bankings figure, which is basically your catch-all for what you expect to bill in your pipeline, you do need to then knock that down once you create the invoice and put them into this top section. Good point. Okay, we are recording this, so if any of you are struggling sleeping, you can watch it later on, or you can kind of refer back to it and follow it through with your numbers, this on one screen and your actual numbers in the other. Like I said, anyone who if you've had a go at this, you got to think version 1 is better than version none, right? So if you're doing it, even if you're doing it only 90% effectively, it's better than having none. And then if you get it to that 80% plus point, it's really easy for us to jump in, look at the numbers you've used and tweak it. It's much quicker and cost effective for us to jump in and kind of fix the odd column that's gone wrong rather than build it from scratch. So that would be kind of my closing point, really. Go out, have a go. It will make sense once you're using your numbers. So maybe watch this again or have this in the background on hand whilst you put your own numbers in. But once you've done that, it will start to make sense. And if you use it and start, the way we process, we build it, and then every week on a Monday morning, we review it for the week before. Like I said, we colour in the ones that have hit the bank. We move forwards the ones that haven't gone out for one reason or another. And then we kind of roll it on another week at the end. And that gives you that kind of rolling 12 weeks. Right, I'm just going to check I've not missed all of any questions. Oh, Rachel, you had a question. If you were using this to show your bank, would you just give them the spreadsheet? What we would do is give them a PDF of this exact spreadsheet. So don't give them the Excel workings, but turn this into a PDF document and send it in. They won't look at the details. They will just look to the point that there are details there, which will kind of give them that comfort. The two things that the bank are going to look at, they're going to look at the maximum minus figure to understand if the figure that you're looking for is sensible. And then they're going to kind of give it a once over to make sure that the numbers in here are sensible. Other than that, they're not going to look at this and say, oh, hold on a minute, you're paying Simplicity £98 for your telecoms and you could be paying £80. So, what's going on there? That's not the sort of level of detail they're looking at. What they want, if you imagine of the 300 loans they may look at that month, probably only 50 or 60 are going to give them this level of detail. So it kind of gets you to the top of the list, makes it easier for them to lend. And that's what we're achieving with the spreadsheet. The fact is, if you do this properly, it will, like I said right at the start, it will give you peace of mind and fewer sleepless nights, because even if you do end up with a big minus figure, if you know that you've got the bank on board to support it, and it's in the plan to go that far overdrawn because of what's going on now, it will kind of reduce stress, absolutely guaranteed. Which is why we this is typically for us, the virus has obviously brought this to more clients' attention, but typically we do this with clients that are going through major projects, either opening new premises or bringing on new members of staff. And we do it because you can see that the client's worried about their cash flow. And we know that just plotting it all down like this takes that stress away. So that's pretty much 50 minutes now, which I think is enough for this. Like I said, if you go into it with your numbers and you get stuck, give us a call. If you go with your own numbers and it doesn't look like it's producing the end result that you were expecting, give us a call. And if you want a slightly reworked version of this, so if you sell on direct debit or cash through a till, so you don't have sales on credit, then let us know and we will send you that slightly amended version of the spreadsheet. Otherwise, I am going to sign off now. It's been lovely, I say, talking at you. Tell you what, it's the most peaceful day I've had in the office, actually, without all the team here and all of you lot on mute. So give me a call if it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, happy cash flow forecasting, everybody. And we will see you all soon. Cheers, guys.